Hi, this is Neville, faculty and counselor for sesmumbai.com. I've made a video for international students to help them understand application process for MBA, MS, BS programs overseas. So stay tuned. I'll begin with the session in a minute. So let's begin with the first question. You need to choose your country based on the following parameters. What is the level of support you have? For example, the language, medium of instruction that you're comfortable with on a day-to-day basis. So you got to choose your country where you're comfortable. First and foremost thing is communication. How comfortable are you with the communication? Second is accessibility. Transportation systems that exist in that country or the region within that country. They differ within the country as well. Okay, you don't want to get stuck somewhere. Yeah. Like if you're in Canada in some remote region and the transportation system is not there, you're stuck over there. So what are you gonna do? So choose your country carefully. How are you going to cope up on your own? Consider the emotional support, financial support in case of emergencies. Yeah. So sometimes you do take decisions, but you don't calculate the emotional trauma that you are suffering because you're away from your comfort zone, you're away from your home, and also the financial support. Sometimes you miscalculate. So make sure you have, considered all these things before you decide on your journey overseas. Okay, so let's move on to the next. Is the college or university well recognized around the world? So there's no point taking a degree from a country where if you're looking for a job elsewhere in some other country or other part of the world, they would just say that this degree is not valid. So make sure you got your degree from a recognized university, which is acceptable everywhere around the world. So that answers the question. Now, will you be employed or will you be resourceful based on that degree? So that's another thing that you need to ask yourself, that, technology is going at an exponential pace, so by the time you graduate after 4 years, after you've done your MBA, after you've done your MS, will that degree hold any value? So look 5 years, 10 years down the lane. Yeah. Does your degree qualify to be a STEM program, meaning science, technology, engineering, mathematics? Because today, everywhere around the world, there's a shortage for people who are from the STEM. So they do require people who are graduates from the science, technology, engineering, or the math field. And hence they do get work permits, they do get jobs easily. So does your degree qualify to be a STEM program? So check that. Now, what are the work and visa regulations for international students? Yeah, so some countries, they are very strict. If you're an international student, you will not get work out there once you have completed your graduation, whether it's an MBA, MS, or BS. Yeah, so make sure you've gone through the visa regulations, the work permit regulations. Yeah. Now, are there separate rules for STEM degrees? So again, like I said, the work visa regulations differ from degree to degree. So if you are a STEM degree, you might get a better chance of getting a work visa compared to a non-STEM degree. Sometimes the duration differs. Now, do you have internship requirements? What are the internship requirements is what I meant, and what are the chances of getting one? I have students who have got back to me saying that I'm not getting internship opportunities. Maybe they've not worked well on their CV, on their resume. Maybe they have not, browsed around for or networked enough. So all these parameters matter. But at the end of the day, after all of that, if you're not getting an internship, then your possibility, their chance of getting a job are obviously less compared to someone who's got an internship. What is the duration of work permit and can it be extended? So again, STEM comes in there. If you have a STEM, then there's a possibility of extension. But if you don't have STEM, then you just get the normal, permit that all the students would get regardless of having a STEM. After shortlisting your country, time to shortlist your university based on your major entrance exam score like GMAT, GRE, ACT, SAT, your budget, the ranking of the school, and the scholarship, other things that matter. So make a list of 2 to 3 universities for each of the following categories. That is the dream category. That is A category where you have a chance of getting through. Yeah. And then there's a B category of universities where you know for a fact that you'll get through. Now, after shortlisting your country, and go through the following information for each university carefully. So those lists that you've created for the dream, for the A category and B category, you need to find out information for those universities, like the following. Find out the requirements for the SAT, ACT, GRE, GMAT, whichever program you're going for, and find out the cutoff section wise. There's a different, requirement which differs from university to university. Some might just say, okay, 320 GRE is good for me. But some universities, they want a minimum score of 165 in math or 155 in verbal. This is just an example for the GRE. Yeah. And so there will be different breakups for SAT, ACT as well. So make sure you know your cutoff as well for that university. English language proficiency requirement is basically giving the IELTS, TOEFL, and many other, they have come up with Duolingo and many other European-based English language proficiency requirements. So mainly it's IELTS and TOEFL, and they're cut off section-wise as well. So IELTS is out of 9 points, and they have listening, reading, speaking, writing. So does TOEFL, which is out of 30 points each section. So make sure you know your section-wise cutoff. Tuition fees are applicable. Most institutions will provide information on per year basis. So be careful when you look at that information. Don't think it's the information for all the 4 years or all the 2 years of your MBA or whatever the length of a master's program. It's per year. So suppose if there are it's a 1.5 year program, then you'll have to calculate the fees accordingly. Also, be extra careful in calculating the fees per semester and fees per credit hour. Sometimes universities give you the tuition breakup on the credit hour that you've taken in that university. So usually BS programs are 30 credits per year. MS MBA programs are 30 to 60 credits per year. Differs from one institution to the other and one program to the other. Now, in addition to the tuition fees, go through the, the health, your insurance, basically, the miscellaneous expenses, cost of the books, usage of library and, labs, etc., accommodation cost. So make sure you've gone through all of that expenses, yeah, and you've calculated based on the total requirement, yeah, not just per year requirement. Out here, there's one thing I would like to let you know, that if you've taken the dormitory accommodation, then this is what I've heard from my students who've done their bachelor's. They've told me that it's not for the whole 12 months. It's probably for 9 or 10 months. I may be wrong, but that's what they said, that once the holidays begin, Christmas or the summers, they would have to vacate it so that they can allow the new batch coming in occupy, something like that. So make sure you have spoken with the university, understood the details. Don't assume, because then you'll have to end up paying for those 1 or 2 months which you're out of the dorm on your own, or probably you'll have to come back. So think about those things. Okay. Program information. Carefully go through the program information, find out courses offered within each program. So like, for example, if you've gone for computer engineering or computer science, for example. So within computer science, they have courses 101, 102 501, 503. So find out information in detail of each and every the courses offered within the program. See how computer science differs from electronic and computer engineering and things like that. Yeah. Usually they're pretty much the same for most conventional BSMS majors. However, might differ from school to school, especially if you're applying for an MBA or an interdisciplinary program from the STEM list or without the STEM list. Find out about scholarships, teaching assistantship, that is RA, TA, RA is research assistantship, international student funding, in addition to scholarships given based on merit and profile. One of my students got through in his MS program with teaching assistantship because he had experience, or maybe RA, I'm not sure, but he got one of that because he had experience and he was working out there under the visa regulations that he was on after having completed his bachelor's abroad. And he also got scholarship. So two things he got from that university. So that's great. So make sure you find out about all these things. Yeah. Find out if your country provides scholarships. So your home country can also provide scholarships. There are these big companies, don't want to name them again. So they do provide scholarships to students. Sometimes there are these international platforms that do provide, or there are trusts that do provide scholarships based on your GPA, your GRE, GMAT, SAT, ACT scores. So find out about them. It will definitely help to reduce your cost. Okay, application rounds and international deadlines for each round. So just don't look at a deadline and say, oh, it's way back in March or May for that same year. No, international deadlines are obviously, if you're going for example, 2023, yeah, then the deadline mostly would be in December of 2022. Yeah, there are institutions who have deadlines like in 2023 March, and there are institutions who have deadlines up to May as well. Just be sure that they are not for the local residents, and make sure that they're international deadlines, so they differ. So make absolutely sure that you know your deadline. Again, if you're applying for scholarships, then there are different deadlines for those as well, or if you're applying for funding, so there are different deadlines for those as well. So make sure you know your deadlines. And for each round as well, there are several rounds. For example, an MBA applicant might apply in the first or the second round. They have 3 to 4 rounds, each university. Some take it on a over the year rolling basis. So find out all those things. Find out about application fees. Are there any common app platforms to make applications from? So this goes for, the common app platforms goes for the MS, special programs. Mostly BS have to go through the common app. And MBAs, they're just not on common app. They don't have a common app for MBA, so you'll have to individually apply to each university. Depending on which country, this is common apps are there for UK, US, and Canada for bachelor's degree. I don't know whether they have it for MBAs in overseas in all the institutions. So make sure you know all these common app platforms. Find out about prerequisites before selecting your major program. What do you mean by prerequisites? It means find out about the minimum eligibility criteria to get into a master's computer science program or bachelor's psychology program, or to do an MBA. So for example, is there a minimum work experience requirement? This goes for both the master's and the MBA program. Do you need any particular subject, and for how many hours, years you must have studied that subject to qualify to apply for that major program? The major meaning the subject, the main topic that you're majoring in. This applies, the minimum number of hours applies to both MS and bachelor's program. Some more requisites. Depending on your university, you might need a particular GPA requirement. So some universities will not take you in if you've got a GPA of below 3. So for example, in America, the GPA is out of 4. So if you get anything less than 3, some unis will not accept you. So go through the GPA requirements. Also, if your degree mark sheet transcripts are not in English, then you might have to get them evaluated through NARIC or WES or any other recognized institution that does evaluation of transcripts. So WES, NARIC, these are international institutions that provide evaluation, comparison of what your degree is compared to another degree in another country. Okay. Furthermore, if your degree consists of a 3-year program compared to a 4-year program, then some universities might not accept your application for an MBA or an MS program. So if you're from, for example, from India, let's say, and you've got 3 years degree, yeah, and the normal undergraduate degree, that is a bachelor's degree in America, is 12 plus 4, whereas in India it is 12 plus 3. Then that could be a hurdle. They might not accept you for the master's program. Yeah. So understand those requirements. Universities, it differs from university to university again, because they're very strict about it. There are certain conditions wherein your application can be accepted. Example, those conditions could be if you've got work experience and you're applying for an MBA program after having graduated with a 12 plus 3, you can probably get admission. Also, if your graduation, that is your undergraduation or your bachelor's degree is from an institution which is an A or an A plus, according to the home country's national accreditation, that could be another comparing point. You might get admitted because it's from a top-notch A grade or A plus institution. So go through all those things. Find out how many LORs, that is letter of recommendations, are required. Some require 3, some require 2. So mostly the LORs are academic or professional. So if you've mainly been working and now then you're planning to pursue your master's, then probably it will be professional. Yeah. But there's not been a lot of work experience, then you might go for 1 academic, 2 professional. So it all depends. So yeah, so each LOR must be a detailed statement from someone whom you have known for at least 6 months. So why this? Because you can't get an LOR from an acquaintance. Like if you've just met him for 2-3 days, yeah, he cannot write about you. So that would be incorrect. Because of the pandemic, I get many queries that I've been online, but I've been online in touch with that supervisor or manager of mine for over 6 months. That's fine. That's acceptable because there was pandemic. There was no way you could have been at the workplace together. It was online. So fair enough. That will work. Furthermore, the statements, the LOR, whoever's writing, the referee writing about you, must explain in detail with examples about your achievements, strengths, weaknesses, performances over the years, whether it's an academic or professional setup. So if your referee is your faculty, then in an academic setup, he needs to explain in the statement that he's writing about your strengths and weaknesses, about any particular achievement, something about you that brings out your character, your personality, so that the admissions team can understand, yeah, where you come from. Now, these LORs must be assigned and reverted through official email ID of the institution firm the referee is a part of. So usually what happens these days that if once you fill up your application, you write down your referee's name with their email ID, with their contact details, and the admissions team from the university will fire them an email, yeah, asking for reference. So you must make sure that it is an official email ID and not a Yahoo, Hotmail, or any kind of non-official email IDs. It should be an official email ID. So you should inform your referees about your applications and take their authorization before submitting their names in the application. So obviously you can't just randomly select one faculty and put his email ID just because you have one. You got to speak with that person. Yeah, he or she should be able to accept that they're going to write about you. Yeah. So make sure you choose your referees carefully, because if that could be, the make or break situation for your, getting admissions. Okay. This is one of the major criteria. After shortlisting your country, time to shortlist. Okay, so some more information. SOP, statement of purpose, is a must for all programs, whether you're from a bachelor's, MBA, or MS. Statement of purpose. They want to know what is the purpose of you doing a master's or an MBA or a bachelor's. In addition to the SOP, you might have to answer additional questions once you begin your application. So there are additional questions. From university to university, they change from program to program. So you'll have to answer them carefully. Yeah, you can't just answer anything. Think carefully before you answer. Okay, you must also know the ranking of the program. Yeah, the ranking of the university. There are separate local, regional rankings, international rankings. So you might find all this information from certain websites. So go through them, find out all the information. You just don't want to randomly select your college or a program. You want to go for the best because you're paying a lot of money. Finally, make sure you shortlist a second program in case if you're unable to get into the first program of your choice. So what happens is some institutions, they, for example, you're going for BS in psychology, yeah? Or you're going for a BS in, psychology, which is a STEM program. So there are BA in psychology, there's BS in psychology. So suppose you're not able to get into BS in psychology, but they're offering you BA in psychology, then that'll be your second choice, BA in psychology. So for example, in a master's program, suppose you're going for MS in computer science with, that is your first choice. And suppose you're not getting in that institution and you want to get into that institution, then some institutions do offer what will be your second choice if you don't get in the first one. Yeah. So you got to think about your second choice carefully. Yeah. It should not be very different from the first one. Okay, your second choice, if your first choice is MS in computer science, your second choice could be MS in software engineering or something like electronic and computer engineering, something that is not very different if you're hell-bent on going to that particular institution. Yeah, they do have third choices as well, so it all depends upon you. Okay, you got to make a call on that. You have to go through the course within each program, like I said earlier. Now, all of the above points, especially the SOP, LOR, okay, SOP is as good as 20%, LOR is another 20%, the GRE score would be another 20%. Okay, pandemic time, they are excluding the GRE scores and the GMAT scores, fair enough. Then everything goes on to your GPA and other work experience or project work that you've done, any other achievements. Yeah, so overall that comprises 100%, yeah, of your application, on which a decision is made by the admissions team to grant you admission or to grant you merit-based scholarship. So make sure you plan enough time in gathering all information before you begin with your application. Most application portal allows you to save your work and resume later. Okay, so you can save, you don't have to sit and complete the entire application in 1 or 2 hours. Save it, go on to the next day, open up again, sign in again, and continue completing the application. And so you can take almost a month to complete one application. So take your time, do not rush through your application. Okay, so now that you've gathered all information, time to begin your application. Make an application tracker. What does that mean? So on an Excel sheet or a spreadsheet or a worksheet, whatever you call that, make an application tracker, because what will happen is that if you're applying to more than 4 to 5 universities and you want to keep track of each and everything, for example, create the following categories for each university. Okay, so from the dream category, you've picked up 2 universities, then write down the name of the university and the link of the program, the link of the application, the link of the website. Okay, so make category for university and link, program and link, application and link. Then IELTS and TOEFL. So IELTS and TOEFL, write down the requirement individually, like, okay, this one requires an IELTS score of 6.5 overall with a minimum of so and so and so breakup for listening, speaking, reading, writing. So on and so forth. find out the cutoff for SAT, ACT, GRE, GMAT, then make a category for international deadlines, early and final. So early deadlines, meaning the first round, second round. Scholarship, okay, what kind of scholarship is offered, any links for that, enter that. LORs, how many LORs are required, 2 or 3, okay. SOP, so whether you submitted an SOP, whether you've not submitted an SOP, all these things, your SOP will differ from one institution to the other. Yeah. Tuition fee per year, okay. Each institution will have different tuition fees, so make a category for tuition fee. Accommodation cost, overall cost, rank of that institution, application fees also differing from one institution to the other. Write down a second or third choice if you're going for it. Then finally, once you have submitted your application, they will get back to you with a user ID and password. So write down your user ID and password in that spreadsheet, because you don't want to search those emails and waste your time. Yeah, because 4 to 5 universities is just good enough, and you will forget what the user ID password would be. And finance statement, very important. So most of the universities these days ask for finance statement. They want to know whether you can afford it, so they want to see a bank statement, basically, who's your sponsor, etc. Okay. Now, after you gathered all information, time to begin your application. Visit the application link, register, and begin with your application. So this is where you take your time and save your work and then start again. So this is where you would register on their website and begin with your application. Once you've entered all information, yeah, okay, proofread your SOP and information entered in the application. Take help from a friend, family member who can proofread your application and verify all information before you hit the submit button. Now, once you hit the submit button, they will take the fees from you. So you will have to have an international credit card, debit card handy, yeah, to make a payment from. Each institution has different payment gateways. Now, after you've submitted, then within 48 hours, usually they would send you a user ID and password. So that was the category which I mentioned. So while registering, they probably would not send you a user ID password. It's only after you've submitted they would do that. But I could be wrong. But mostly it is the former thing. They would give you a user ID password so that you are part of their application portal. Yeah. After you submitted your application, not before. So while registering, they would probably just note down your email ID, your first name, last name, date of birth, and your mobile number, if any. So that would be the starting phase. But the user ID password is usually after you submit the application, so that you can keep checking every time. Once you've submitted your application, you want to know about the decision. You want to know if there are any documents pending. So you can quickly enter the user ID password, go onto their application portal and find out all the information which is there for you. Yeah. So keep your referees informed about your application status, and also make sure you have got a confirmation from them once they have emailed your LOR at the assigned link. What this means is that once you have submitted your application, sometimes while you're at the application stage, a link is fired to your referees to fill in your LOR statement, or things like that. So keep checking with your referees. Ask them whether they've received any link, and once they do, then ask them to send it across to the admissions team, so that 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 job is done. Yeah. Have all transcripts in original and attested copies neatly arranged for use when needed. So make sure your transcripts are handy in a scanned format also, and they are tested as well. So sometimes some countries have take a lot of time to get the attestation done. So it might take days or weeks to get things done if you do not have the right IDs with you, or right certificate numbers with you. So it might take a lot of time. So make sure you have everything neatly arranged. Mostly you would only have to upload scanned copies of the original. Once admitted, only then they might asks you to show the originals to them. Yeah. So this is for mostly the people who are applying for a bachelor's program. Um, Certain universities ask the school from where you've graduated. Yeah, this is your, not the undergrad school, this is the school where you've done your high school basically. So they might ask you, they might want your certificates, mark sheets from that school emailed to them. So this is usually goes for the IBDP students. Even for the non-IBDP schools, they're following that. So yeah, so all these things have to be taken care of. So yeah, scan copies, they would accept scan copies, but at the same time they would want any, the statements from your counselor from your IBDP or non-IBDP school. Once you've completed your application, time to hit the submit button. You can submit your application in most cases when your LOR has not been submitted, or even when your official scores have not reached them directly from the authorized channel. However, you have to make sure all LOR scores and any of the documents are received by the admission department before the deadline. Okay, so if you're confused about what official score, okay, the IELTS TOEFL official scores have to be sent from the official channel. Even though you're uploading a scanned copy that you have, they would yet want an official score from the institution and not from you. Okay, so that way English proficiency becomes a very important part of your application process. Also, the GRE, GMAT, SAT scores, they want it from the institutions, although you have uploaded the scan copies, but yet they want it from the institutions directly and not from you. So these are certain things that can reach them later on after you have submitted the application, but later on does not mean after the deadline. It should be before the deadline. Yeah. Once you've submitted the application, each university shall send you on your registered email ID or registered mobile number your user ID and password, or PIN. They call it PIN to keep track of your application status. So this is what I was talking to you about, where you'll have to, use the user ID that they provided you and use the password that they provided you and log into their application portal, which is different from the link. Usually it is, it depends from university to university, but usually it is the same. Some institutions have a different application portal, so you might see a different thing once you've submitted application. And that's the place, the application portal is a place where you'll find information like your documents are pending or not, uh, where a decision has been reached or not. So you might have to wait usually for around 45 days. That is usually the time taken for them to get back to you about whether you've been accepted or rejected, or if they, at least when you go to the application portal, before you get your decision, they'll let you know if they need a finance statement, they need the so and so documents. They'll let you know whether the scores have been updated, whether they've received the score, whether they've received the LOR. All these things will be found out on the application portal. It is important to regularly check the application portal for any updates stated on the application dashboard. Example, submit any proof of finance, any other documentation. Most importantly, if you've got admitted or rejected, decisions usually take 45 days. However, they might take longer. So longer meaning sometimes they have a decision deadline also. So once you made an application, they would tell you by 25th of so-and-so month, we'll let you know whether you've been accepted or rejected. That's the deadline. Obviously, they don't wait till that long. They would, once they have made up their mind, they will send you their decision. And there's so many students, so obviously it depends where you are in the queue. Once you've been accepted in a university, you might get either or both of the following. You shall be informed via your application portal, and or you shall get an email stating the conditions and other details of being accepted or rejected. So what this means is that if you've been accepted, then you might get the information about being accepted on the application portal, and they might also email it to you that you've been accepted, and there'll be many documents that you'll have to go through, because those documents will have a lot of information, which I'll probably discuss right now. So just giving you a brief, the information other than being accepted would be scholarships, TAs, RAs offered to you, about booking your slot, basically pay a small amount to reserve your seat. They will also give you a deadline till what date you can, accept it. Yeah. Um, they'll also give you information on your visa requirements. Then if you're applying to USA, for example, they talk about the I-20s also will be mentioned in that. So usually that is the case. If the I-20s do not come, don't be surprised. They might just send it to you after you made the booking. Yeah. Um, so you shall be forwarded via application portal. You shall get an email saying the conditions, blah, blah, blah. Moreover, you might also get to know about any scholarships, TAs, RAs. The acceptance letter might also contain instructions to file your application for student visas, other financial documentations. Once you've been accepted, you would be given a deadline within which time you will have to reserve your admission by paying reservation fees. Example, if it's USA, then you might usually have to pay around $200 to $1,500 to block your seat before the deadline. These amounts are for illustration purpose only. Actual amounts might differ from what is stated here, so that is true. It is only for your understanding. The actual amounts will differ. Consider conditions of refund and other terms and conditions before you make any payment. So that's another important thing, because you're applying to 6 to 7 universities. There are chances that you might get rejected in a few, but the possibility of getting accepted are higher than being rejected. Okay. So yeah. If you have submitted your application but haven't got any update from your university, either on the application portal or via email or post, then first check your junk mail, check your application dashboard, browse through all the tabs. There are many tabs on the application portal which are not meant for you. It's probably later on, once you started studying in that college, they will be useful. So right now, but anyways, just go through all the tabs, find out, because it's things are not very um, straightforward on those application portals. You'll have to look up all the tabs and links and see where the information is. Yeah. So check your application dashboard, browse through all the tabs, read carefully all instructions provided to you at the time of receiving your user ID and password. Sometimes, with a lot of information, you're just focusing on the user ID and password, but not reading the other part of the email. So make sure you've read all those things. Yeah. Again, check the university website or program link for any updates regarding the same. If all else fails, then contact the admission team via email, phone, chat, however you might feel is acceptable. Some universities just take a lot of time. Usually universities provide a deadline for decisions as well. So don't be surprised if you're not heard from them. Some institutions just do take a lot of time because they've given you a deadline for their decision as well. So they will wait till the nth hour. If the deadline is 25th of May, for example, they will give you a decision around 23rd of May. So don't be surprised that happens. Now, if you're in a rush, then you might just move on to whichever university which has granted you admission. Okay. Yeah. If you have been waitlisted, which is usually the case for delayed response, then you might want to consider other options where you have an offer of acceptance. So we'll not come to know if you've been waitlisted, or you will not come to know, but the standard procedure is that the universities will inform you outright about it, that they have waitlisted you, and it could be any reason why they waitlisted you. Probably they're looking for a better profile, probably the deadlines have not reached and they are accepting more applications, so they might have waitlisted you. So there could be many other reasons. I wouldn't know the details, but sometimes they just take their time and not inform. So even that happens. So wait. Wait till the decision deadline or move on if under time constraint. That also happens. If you are under time constraint, then you might want to move on, because your country, if has many students going overseas, then there would be a difficulty getting an appointment for whichever country you're going for. Sometimes your application is complete, but you might keep getting incorrect updates on your application portal as scores not received, even when you know that your official scores have been paid for and sent out through the official channel. Just wait out. Make sure the scores are sent through registered couriers rather than airmail. So out here, if you're sending your scores when you go on to a particular institution, and they have the service of sending the scores via email or via registered couriers, and if that is your concern, yeah, then go for registered couriers. If you because they will let you know who's received and when he's received it, he or she. If you go by airmails, they're just normal posts, so there is no guarantee of knowing when and where, how they've received it. So for peace of mind, you can go for the couriers, but they're costly. Okay. um, Although most of the universities accept electronic reporting service for the scores, hence the above issue is somewhat rare. It is somewhat rare because every university has got an electronic reporting service tied up with these institutions that report their scores, especially TOEFL, GRE, GMAT, SAT, and ACT. They do send the scores electronically to most of the institutions. Yeah. And sometimes it is just that the admissions team of some universities that take a lot of time to update information on your application portal. So perhaps they're on their holidays. There is a Christmas holiday, and so you might have to wait. Yeah, sometimes that is the case. Perhaps they want to update only when they have made a decision. So just try to keep calm. So there are many reasons why an incorrect a score not received kind of an update is showing up, even though you have sent the scores. It's just that there's no one around. They're on their holiday, they've not updated it, or they'll probably just wait it out because they have they have a lot of work as well, so it could be anything. Okay. Also note, some universities may take personal, telephonic, or online face-to-face interviews, so be prepared. You shall be informed and given an appointment for such interviews in advance, so you will have adequate time to prepare. This is mostly true for PhD, MBA candidates, and some BSMS programs also do that. Yeah, face-to-face interviews or telephonic interviews. However, some universities have begun accepting personal video recording and provided instructions to submit the same. So I've seen that a lot these days in the application form. You'll see they'll ask you to upload a video, personal video. That could be it. They want to see you on in person, or face to face virtually. They want to see you. They want to see you talk, etc. So many universities also send out assignments which are to be video recorded and submitted online. So this is a rare procedure. Not all follow the above practice, but some do. Okay. Certain European schools, most of the European schools are following this practice, I would say, the good ones. Instructions are given on how to complete finance forms. Usually you might have to complete the finance form and get it attested by your bank, and or provide bank statement as evidence of sufficient funding, usually for first year, but some do ask for all the semesters of your degree program. Equivalent to USD, GBP, Euro, attested and signed by the bank official on bank letterhead. Follow instructions given in the form and or admission portal. What this means is that they would want on a bank letterhead the amount of money that you hold, equivalent to, suppose you're applying to some country in Europe, then in euros, equivalent to, suppose you're going to Great Britain, UK, then they want in GBP. Suppose you're going to USA or Canada, then they want the equivalent of the amount that you hold in your home country written down in USD or Canadian dollars. So that's what it means. And there's a separate finance form. If they have one, then you'll have to fill that up and get it attested by the bank as well, in addition to the bank statement. So it depends. You have to go through the instruction. Instructions to apply for visa and other guidance is clearly stated along with the acceptance offer. It is advised to apply at least a month or two before the program start date. Yeah. Some countries have to process too many student visas before the fall intake. For example, the fall intake is in August, hence you might not get the appointment as planned out. Also, some countries have restrictions on how many students visas they can allow each year, a major setback for some students in their academic journey overseas. This is true, it does happen. Like, for example, when the pandemic was going on, obviously there were no flights going out of your home country. For example, nothing was going out from UK, or nothing was going out from Spain. So what happens out here is that the students pile up, because they are learning online from their home country. And once the pandemic was, the the rules were less strict, yeah, they decided on accepting students to come to their country provided they are vaccinated, etc. So then all of a sudden, your home country, whether it's India, Spain, or whether it is UK, if they want to probably go to Canada or go to USA, then those embassies out there would be inundated with so many applications coming all together. So then they would probably restrict, because they can't go through all so many thousands of students applications. So they would restrict, put a number of visas that they would allow for that particular um, season. For example, the fall, August, yeah, because they piled up for one or two seasons. For example, spring start also got piled up for the August, and the previous year's August, that is fall, also got piled up for the next year August. You've been doing a degree online, but then you want to go for the second year. So these things can happen, and if that does happen, you don't get your visa to go overseas, or you're yet in line to get your appointment, yeah, then you can always ask the university to defer your admission, yeah. So most universities provide deferment, some provide conditional ones, and some just don't. So this is a very rare case, but it did happen during the pandemic, so I had to state it out here. And then finally, remember, knowledge will only set you free as long as you learn how to apply it. Without application, it's just another artifact dumped in your collection. So whatever you do, make sure it is worth it. Yeah. So thank you for your time. Good luck.